Hello chess friends and welcome to your Zad of Chess channel and welcome to really one of the most devastating attacks that I've seen in my life. We have here Vasily Smyslov, the legend of the sport, against Zoltan Ribli in a beautiful Semi-Tarrasch Defense. And this game I will add into three of my playlists that I have here on my YouTube chess channel. I have this best chess games of all time series. I think this game really deserves to be on the list, but this game will be also added into your Queen's Gambit decline studies, because here I think we'll see very important strategies, very important ideas in the middle game stage. But this game will also add into your chess strategy and tactics video, because here I think first of all we'll see the important strategy of the isolated d pawn, cool attacking themes, but then also brutal tactics. So this game is really complete. So if you're studying really chess, if you maybe are beginner, if you're searching for opportunities in the middle game stage, this is an optimal game for you. Pay good attention. This is really one of the best games that I've seen in my life. So let's see now the game with the white pieces. Vasily Smyslov opened with the move d4. Zoltan Ribli's response was Nxf6, Nxf3, e6, and now after move c4 d5, we have now the transposition into the Queen's Gambit decline. So knight to c3, 3 knights variation, and now after move c5, we have now the Semi-Tarrasch defense. And now usually white undermines the pressure in the center of the board, releases the pressure by playing the move c takes d5. This is also my recommendation. Many things can happen now. E takes d5 leads into many times this isolated pawn, so after d takes c5. Also what can be an opportunity is here c takes d4, also very often played, popular now these days, played many times in top GM level. Basically this line leads into a drawish I think position. You can also check it out. As I said, I have created this Queen's Gambit decline studies, also the Semi-Tarrasch ideas. We have analyzed also this particular sideline. So now here's Zoltan Ribli took with the knight to d5, and usually white continues with e4, knight takes c3, b takes c3, c takes d, and then bishop to b4, bishop to d2. This is also playable for both sides. Also, we have analyzed these studies in our Queen's Gambit decline series, but now here Vasily Smyslov played, I think, a more positional approach to the game, played now the move e3. He doesn't want to trade off too many pieces. In this previous sequence, when you play e4, the game becomes, I think, a little bit simplified, because many pieces will be off the board. First of all, we'll trade out the knight on c3, and then with bishop to b4 and bishop to d2 also, the bishops will be off the board. So basically in this whole tactical sequence, white stays with two minor pieces, also black stays with two minor pieces, so the game is not so complicated, I think. But here knight to c6, normal development by Zoltan Ribli, bishop to d3, bishop also development, kingside casting. We have now a3. Here Vasily Smyslov is trying to build a queen and bishop battery. It's a common theme in these types of structures, in these types of positions. But if you don't play, of course, the move a3, if you rush immediately, then of course knight to b4 could happen. So that's why first a3. Also in some lines, bishop to b2, queen to c2 can be an opportunity, building even a checkmate queen and bishop battery. Now when the queen is behind, of course it's not a checkmate, but it's still a dangerous attack against the pawn on h7. So we have c takes d, we have e takes d4, and now Vasily Smyslov is playing with a structural disadvantage, is playing now with the isolated d pawn. And so far Zoltan Ribli has a good blockade here around the square d5, but has also another problem, has now the lack of defenders in front of the king. So there's simply no minor piece that defends the king, and that's why here bishop to f6 was played by Zoltan Ribli, getting a new defender into the game, but also playing against the isolated d pawn. So we have here queen to c2. You don't want to play, of course, knight to d4, because also here knight to d4, bishop to h7 will happen. You lose a very important pawn that is protecting your king. So that's why after move queen to c2, h6, rook to d1. Again, knight to d4, not so good. Knight to d4, bishop to d4. Look at this, bishop to h7. You lose the piece on d4, so it's not working. Here after move rook to d1. That's why queen to b6 was played by Zoltan Ribli, simply continuing the pressure. And now bishop to c4 here by Vasily Smyslov. So here rook to d8. Again, I'm pointing out here knight to d4 wouldn't be so good. If black plays now immediately the move knight to d4, then it's actually very dangerous. Here, look at this, knight to d4. You can of course take, but the problem is now this idea. knight to a4, simply kicking away the queen from the defense of the bishop. This is not good for black. You have to step back. Okay, after rook to d4, maybe black hopes to survive this attack in this way, but actually this is not working, because look at this, bishop to h6. That's what I'm talking about, the lack of defenders in front of black's king. Usually you have to have at least one minor piece that is defending your king. Now after bishop to h6, look at this, you can maybe play d takes c4, but now look at this, rook to g4, f6, rook to g7, for instance, win game, g6, rook to g6 will happen immediately, so it's not working. If you play here g takes h6 immediately, then rook to g4 attacks the king, and now after queen to c1 or queen to d2, this is again a messed up game. You can maybe play knight to f4, bringing some pieces in behind, but here rook to h4, I think, simply again wins the game here for white. So see, knight to d4 in this position is not possible because here of the tactical issues around the square h6. So that's why rook to d8 played by Zoltan Ribli. So knight to e2. Now Vasily Smyslov protects now the pawn on d4, but this was also maybe not the optimal way here played by Vasily Smyslov. He simply played now too defensively here, but this idea is clear. He's trying to get the knight on g3. He's trying now to maneuver the knight on h5, where it could be again very dangerous in front of black's king. But a better choice was simply to again wait here in the center of the board, because if now knight to d4 happens again with the same tactical pattern, look at this, rook to d4, b4, now again bishop to h6. Still, I think this is a complicated game for black, although in this sequence black can actually take g takes h6, and now after queen to d2, black can escape here towards the center of the board. But still, I think this will be very, very complicated now also here to play for black. But okay, here Vasily Smyslov played knight to e2, defended simply the isolated d pawn. So we have here bishop to d7, getting the piece into the game, and now Vasily Smyslov builds again this amazing queen and bishop battery as the main threat. He's trying now in some lines deliver an annoying check on h7. So we have knight to e7 by Zoltan Ribli, bishop to d3, and now here bishop to a4. A mistake by Zoltan Ribli. Better choice has to be something like knight to f5, simply locking this long diagonal, and now after g4 you can maybe play knight to d6 here, but now after queen to h7, I think, okay, it's unpleasant probably to play the game like this with the black pieces when your opponent's queen is cornered like this, when your opponent's queen is active like this, but there's simply no good check anymore possible for white here. It's not so dangerous. Or you can play here knight to g6, cutting this long diagonal in a different way. Probably then knight to g3 will happen, but then maybe bishop to a4, hitting the rook. So maybe here really the first mistake by Zoltan Ribli. He got a little bit greedy with his piece. He tried to attack the rook, but of course now Vasily Smyslov plays bishop to queen to h7, uses now the queen and bishop battery, and now the fun starts. Now put your seatbelts on and enjoy in this brutal and epic attack that Vasily Smyslov played here. Now you witness really one of the most epic attacks of all time. So here king to f8, now rook to e1, getting out of the attack, bishop to b5, bishop to b5, queen to b5. It seems so here that Zoltan Ribli defended this position. He got rid of this annoying bishop on d3, but now of course Vasily Smyslov plays on this idea knight to g3 in order to reroute the knight on h5. So we have here knight to g6, not the best of moves here by Zoltan Ribli, because after rook he has to play rook to c8, keeping his options with the king here. And also a very important thing about this move knight to g6 is here that actually you are opening up the e file. It's not opened, of course, but at least on the e file the knight was protecting you. So that's now the most important thing here to know. So you'll see in the next couple of moves why it was so important not to move the knight from the e file. A better choice, as I said, is to play rook to c8. Now probably white would have continued with knight to h5, but this is defendable. You can play knight to f5, and for instance you get a dangerous check. It doesn't matter. We have this one, king to e7, attacking the queen. You have to step back, and now in some lines maybe the queen can get even trapped here with rook to h6. So as I said, this was the must move here. Very hard to find for black. Defensive move rook to c8. Basically the whole game is coordinated on the king side, and now you have to play a piece on the queen side, on the other side of the board, in order to defend your king side. Really, really wild stuff. But also notice this move rook to c8 creates at least some chances on the c file. If the rook moves somewhere, maybe it's also some tactics around the square c1. So as I said, knight to g6, not the optimal move here played by Zoltan Ribli. He is maybe preventing the move queen to h8, but now here Vasily Smyslov simply plays a beautiful knight to e5. We have knight to e7, and now we have a devastating attack here. Bishop to h6. You cannot play, of course, g takes h6 because if you play g takes h6, then here queen to f7 is immediately a checkmate. After bishop to h6, here Zoltan Ribli tried knight to e5, getting rid of another attacker here in the center of the board. But now knight to h5 here by Vasily Smyslov, simply putting more pressure against this weak pawn on g7. So what should you do? If you play g takes h6, we saw this is not working. Queen to h6, king to g8, then knight to f6 is winning the game. Even if you step back here to e8, then look at this. Knight to f6 is again creating an amazing checkmate pattern here. The knight takes these two squares, the queen is cutting off this square, so the game is over here for black. So what should you do? You can of course also play here knight to g6, getting another defender into the game, but now bishop to g7 again with the same problem. Knight to f6 we saw is amazing checkmate. So this is not working. So that's why after move knight to h5, Zoltan Ribli got annoyed. What should you do? Here he tried at least to bring back material, to give up also his knight, but at least to provoke some structural weaknesses in front of white's king. He's hoping maybe to after g takes f3 that Vasily Smyslov played, to maybe somehow include the queen into the defense and maybe deliver as I said, an unpleasant check on the g file. But Vasily Smyslov continues here after g takes f3 and knight to f5. He continues the pressure and plays now, of course, the move knight to f6. We have knight takes h6, and now comes a beautiful move d5. This is the way to go. Look at this, really, really wild stuff. The problem is now you cannot take with the e pawn. If you do that, of course, you get checkmated immediately. Queen to h8, knight to g8, queen takes g8 is winning the game. The e file, as I said, is open. Very, very important stuff. So that's why from d5 we have now the move queen to b2. But now look at this, what Vasily Smyslov is doing here. He plays first of all now the move queen to h8, and now comes really an epic and sharp, brutal tactical sequence. So after move king to e7, now a beautiful tactical shot, rook to e6. Really, really wild stuff, because there's f takes e6. Notice the queen is lined up on this long diagonal on dark squares, and now Vasily Smyslov uses this moment, plays now queen to g7, delivers a check, knight covers, but now comes another beautiful move, d6. You have to now play, of course, here rook to d6. If you play, of course, king to d6, then you get this problem, knight to e4, discovered attack, and the queen is hanging. So you have to play rook to d6, but now another beautiful move, knight to d5. Anyway, you have to accept now the challenge, and now the queen is hanging. And from this point on, I think this is now completely winning endgame here for white. Really, really amazing tactical sequence. So b6, queen to b4, attacking the king, rook comes into the game, pushing the pawn here, and now rook to e4, placing the rook on the most important rank. Now if you get challenged, we can then play rook to g4. So knight to d6, another annoying check. We have e5, rook to e5, again a nice move, because if you play like Zoltan Ribli did here, rook to e5, then f4 is going to happen. And now we have f takes e5, we have king to e6. You cannot of course take knight to e5, because then f4 will happen. You lose also the piece, so it's not working. So after f takes e5, king to e6, and queen to c4 in this position, Zoltan Ribli resigns. So let's see, king to e7, and when we play f4, when we connect now two passers here on the f and e file, this is unstoppable. In one moment you have to sacrifice at least one piece, and then also we have still the h pawn. The king is in danger, the queen is centralized, so it's not working here for black. So incredible game here played by Vasily Smyslov. Amazing attack. Also we have to say Zoltan Ribli played a couple of inaccuracies, but this is the way to go. Vasily Smyslov used his chances and brutalized his opponent with his immortal tactical sequence. So okay, if you want to see more amazing chess games like this, check out our best chess games of all time series. Here's the link of our playlist. And if you're interested more into the Queen's Gambit decline studies, please check out our whole playlist. We have analyzed more than 140 studies about the Queen's Gambit decline. Here's also the playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.